Good afternoon, everyone. We will start on the hour um, at 1 p.m. your time. Let's wait for the rest of the people to join, but welcome to this webinar. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Mustafa. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thanks for joining this afternoon, and thanks to everyone that has joined so far. And this is to first appreciate everybody for joining at the top of the hour. It is very much appreciated, and of course, we will be starting. We'll be starting in the next 2-3 minutes, just to allow other people to join. Then we can start accordingly.
Yeah. So I have a hard stop at 3 o'clock of my time, so 2 o'clock your time. So if we can kick off, that'll be really good for me.
Yes, that's totally fine, Sulaiman. We
Let's
have
give it
that's the plan we are working with.
Yeah, let's give it another 2-3 minutes, and then we'll start. Okay, if that's okay with everyone.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone.
Good afternoon. Good morning. Good everyone. How's everyone doing today? My name is Rotimi Adeyeye. I serve as the branding and marketing executive here at Manifold, and I just want to welcome everybody to this lovely webinar today. Thank you all for coming. We are proud to be partnering with NetApp. Uh, Thank you, Mustafa, for being here with us today. Uh, so today we are going to be talking about secure data infrastructure for the AI era. And we all know how the AI is changing the way business operates. Understanding how to manage, protect, and scale your data infrastructure is more than important ever. And that's why we have lined up expert insights for everyone today with real world cases and strategies to help each and every of our team. Before we dive in, please be free to drop your questions in the chat anytime. We are also going to be having a Q&A session at the end of at the end when the speakers are done. And this session is recorded and will be shared with everybody after. Thank you all for coming. And to get started, we have our speaker from NetApp, Mustafa Sulaiman over here.
Yes,
Thank you,
thank
Mr.
you.
Mustafa.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today. And we're going to talk a little bit about NetApp today. Obviously, we have 1 hour and I can't give you all the information. Before I start, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, sure, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, so yeah, we've got an hour, but what I would like to do is to extend this invitation to you as well. So once we've done with this webinar, I will also share my email address. And if there are any follow-ups after this, you're more than welcome to ping me if there's questions. As I mentioned earlier, and I've got a hard stop at the top of the hour. But more than welcome. Anytime, you're more than welcome to ping me. And if we want to have follow-up session individually, again, no problem at all. I'm at your disposal at any time. You simply send me a message and I will make myself available. As I mentioned, my name is Sulaiman Mustafa. So I am the solutions engineer for the region. So anywhere from South Africa all the way up to Nigeria, and I'm based out of Dubai. Currently in South Africa, came to see some clients down in South Africa, and it's good to be on African soil again. But welcome again to everyone. I don't know how much of the audience knows NetApp, but we've been around for approximately 3 decades. And we really started, trying to simplify things for our customers. And then we started taking these data silos and we unified them. Yeah, so we've simplified, the complexities that we saw in the data center. We quickly adopted and accelerated some of the workloads for people, for our customers, in both the block and file. So both FC and iSCSI and the NFS and the SIFS environment. Yeah. And then came along our data fabric. So exactly as you think of a fabric that's interwoven and everything ties into each other. We started out with a couple of hundred endpoints where we could talk from on-prem into Amazon, into Azure, into Google. And one thing I must tell you, just from the go, when I at least went to customers and I'd say, what is your cloud strategy, or what's your strategy for whatever you're going to do in the near future? Is it staying local? Is it going into cloud? And today it's more relevant because of AI and because of the data explosion that we see today. We created that first data fabric so we could interconnect all of these endpoints and moving data from point A to point B. So it would be, hybrid cloud. So from on-prem into Azure or Amazon. That was the next step we took. And then from there, we went into this hybrid multi-cloud, which now means that we needed to speak to not just on-prem and in one of the cloud providers, but I could have my LLMs in and my data spread across multiple regions in multiple cloud providers, these hyperscalers. So what we did was we took these endpoints and we expanded them into multiple cloud providers. So now we can talk from one control plane to many of these hyperscalers. We're talking about IBM, we're talking about Google, we're talking about Azure, we're talking about Amazon. We speak to them all at once from one single control plane. And then we arrive at today, yeah, where we deliver this silo-free infrastructure to harness that ability to move data from point A to point B, having that intelligence uh, get out of that data, getting the intelligence out of that data, and being able to protect that data wherever it is. So whether it's on-prem, whether it's in Amazon, whether it's in Azure, we need to protect that data. We need to provide you the simplicity to have exactly the same experience from on-prem into the cloud. Okay, so that's really been our journey, and I just wanted to get to, for the people that don't know where NetApp comes from, that's been our journey, and it's been a wonderful, exciting journey, and unique to NetApp. What we've done in the last few years. Okay? These are some of the functions that you would get with NetApp. Okay, so we have snapshots, and these are application consistent and tamper proof. Again, putting it back in the normal world and outside of the AI world, protecting that data from ransomware or any malicious intent, be that internal, be that external. Those snapshots, which you can consider as a backup, is tamper proof and it's instantaneous, yeah, and it's application aware as well. So whether we're talking about a Postgres database or one of these vector databases that we use for AI or a Oracle database, I keep those databases consistent and secure at the same time. We can do any restores at any point in time. So if you've done a snapshot and you find out that we've got logical corruption, someone has tampered with the database, I can roll it back immediately to that point in time. Then I can also have data available in multiple locations for you. Okay? So again, towards the edge or from the edge into the core, and we can do this in multiple ways. I can do this asynchronously, which is time-based, or I can do it synchronously, which is block one side, block to the other side. How does that benefit you? Having data in multiple places provides, in our new world, the DevOps guys to develop their solutions at any place on the globe, within the globe, and having access to that data at any place within our domain. Yeah. So having a inference in one center and pushing that data or the output of that data into another data center in New York so that someone else can have access to that data. Perfect. Yeah. We are that agile that we can move the data from point A to point B at the drop of a hat. Then I've got the autonomous ransomware protection, which we do both from internal and external. We're using user anomaly behavior. And also we've built some AI into this today, where we use entropy, which looks at the data, if it makes sense to the AI engine that runs within our operating system, it is termed as not a threat. If it looks at that data and it says, I see something that really doesn't make sense to me, it'll flag that. Okay, and we have multiple proactive steps that we can take towards that. We can either snapshot that, lock the user out that's causing that malicious files to be dropped there, or simply just stop that file from being written to the database or to the file share to our data. Yeah, and in this way, we can pinpoint exactly where it happened, who was the responsible person, and in most cases, we'll trap it and stop it before it actually gets to your data. So we're the last form of defense. Once it gets to us and we stop it, there's no need for you to go look anywhere else. We'll provide you the investigation. We'll provide you the ability to be proactive on those, both on block and on the NAS capability. Okay? Then we have Snap Lock, which is a immutable type storage, and you can have your data sit in this storage, and it will only be deleted at a specific time of your choosing. The next one, encryption. I can encrypt data when it lands on my primary data center. It'll be encrypted whilst it's going on its way to Amazon or Azure. And when it lands at Azure or Amazon or your DR site or your multiple, let's call it service providers, it'll be encrypted in all of those data centers. Then I've got multi-factor authentication, which prompts you for a number so that you can log into the machine, or multi-admin verification. So multiple admins will have to verify themselves in order to create, delete, or simply modify certain functions on the array. Then I've got a AI engine, which is also an analytical engine, which provides you a predictive analysis on your machine itself. Yeah, that's a free product as well, built in the cloud in one of the SaaS products. I have our quality of service, kind of self-explanatory. Whatever is required at that point in time for that particular workload, both in the cloud and in your on-prem environment. And again, it's all part of this new data center, new generation data center, whereby wherever we require the resources, that's where it's directed at. Okay. Management, obviously, we have our management interfaces. One very important thing that I want to mention is automation is also a huge factor in today's world. Yeah, and whether we're talking AI, whether we're talking traditional data centers, it is as important as what AI is in today's new generation data center. So obviously some of you will be working with Ansible. We have something like about 450 playbooks currently available to us that we can interface with our storage and the different operating systems that sits outside of that as well. We have an automatic tiering policy where we can take cold data that's not being used. Again, part of the AI new world order, where we can move data from on-prem into the cloud without intervention when its temperature has gone cold. Then all the normal, your protocols, fiber channel, iSCSI, that's standard. I'm not even going to talk about that because you'd expect something like that from us. Then we have some inline data deduplication, compression, compaction. Again, I won't speak about that because that is something that's expected of all storage vendors today. Okay. If there's any questions, please just add it into the chat, and I will endeavor to answer once we've completed. So this is really all the complexity we're looking at today, and I'm going to start with AI. Your modern data lakes, which is just a big repository of data, because that's all that it really is, right? And whether we're talking about, that data lake, and whether we're talking about data that we're using specifically, AI inference, be that a small pod with a couple of GPUs, or it requires 1,000 GPUs, and we require a throughput of a couple of terabytes a second. We have the answer to that. Okay, and the answer to all of that is our operating system. It's called ONTAP. Okay, so that's the secret sauce to NetApp. It's our operating system that runs across all of these. And as I mentioned previously, there's a consistent management and automation. There's the security. Okay, so the anti-ransomware, the multi-factor verification, the multi-admin verification, the data protection, the performance with quality of service, and that consistent experience. So whether you're sitting on-prem and there's a green button on the left-hand side that says create, and if I go to my service provider, or one of the hyperscalers, Amazon, Azure, any one of those, that same green button will be on the left-hand side, identical. So that experience is consistent across all of it. So what we like to say is that ONTAP is everywhere, and it is everywhere because within Azure, you will find NetApp within Azure. They brand it as their own product, so they'll call it something else, and you'll see it a little bit later. But in fact, it is NetApp in the background. Okay, but they'll brand it as something as Azure NetApp files or FSX in the Amazon world. But it's actually NetApp in the back end that gives you that same consistent experience, that performance, that data protection, and the data security, the security around the data. All of that is included when you go from endpoint to endpoint. Yeah. So we'll provide you with that same experience across the entire data estate. So whether we're talking about high performance file systems, we've collapsed all of that in one, and ONTAP will adapt according to what we throw at it. And really, in today's terms as well, it has to be priced at that point where it's palatable. Yeah, so it shouldn't go outside of the realm and become that expensive that it is not attainable. So what we do is for certain workload, there's a hybrid flash, which is a mixture of SSDs and nearline SAS. Then we have capacity flash, which is slightly slower than the one in the center and the one on the right are both flash. So if you look on the one on the right, you'll see that that's sub-millisecond latency, which means, I'm going to use this analogy. Before I push the enter button, my data is there, which is sub-millisecond. The one in the center, that's about 2 to 4 milliseconds, and the one on the end is a 5 to 10 millisecond response time. Yeah? So it's for general workload. But so you will see that we provide you within that spectrum, whatever is required from your point of view, we will be able to provide that. However, the software that sits in the background that I've been speaking about for the last 10 minutes or so, that's included in all of it. So it's standard across all of these different pillars, okay, or tiers. And here you will see, this is what they look like. You'll see the something called the FAS, which is the hybrid flash. That's a mixture of nearline SAS or SAS and SSDs. And then we have the capacity flash and then the performance flash, okay? And then just beneath that, we have the fiber channel, iSCSI or block only storage devices as well. But more important to me, the hardware is the hardware. Yeah, that's there. However, if you look at the bottom part of the presentation of the slide, you'll see that we have that capability across the entire stack. So on-prem, any one of the cloud providers, or one of your service providers. That is the most important part. So if that component is not in the entire data set or the data estate, one of the components that, let's just take out the replication component, if we are not able to move data from here into the cloud, remember, you wouldn't have the CPUs or a couple of teraflops of CPU within your environment, let's say, to run a prompt that says, give me all the customers I've dealt with for the last 20 years. It might run for 2 weeks, but you need that kind of intelligence today. Okay. And maybe the prompt has found some of that data, but it's constantly learning. That's the new AI model. Yeah? And if you require that kind of response time, we would go to the flash. If you require something where I'm going to have data that's gone cold, I can push it to a S3 repository, or for intermediary type environment where the data sits in a transit format, it would be either the hybrid flash or the capacity flash. Okay. Remember, we spoke about the unified storage again. So this is the one where we can have all of the protocols on the single machine. So we can talk about fiber channel, we can talk about NVMe over TCP or iSCSI, or S3, NFS, or CIFS. And whether you're looking at any one of these, and this is just a snippet of what is available out there, but there are many, many more enterprise applications that we talk about. So let me choose one. So let's take VMware, for instance. There's a lot of hype going around VMware where they change the licensing cost, and a lot of people are looking at something, an alternative. Okay, and there are a few hypervisors out there like KVM, Red Hat has done something, Ubuntu has done something with Mass and OpenShift with Red Hat. And all of these are certified to run on NetApp. And it's adaptable as we go along. ONTAP integrated with ONTAP. So if we're talking about, I want to snapshot my container that runs in Kubernetes, and it lives, it's Kafka that lives on a number of containers that lives in Red Hat OpenShift, fully integrated end to end with NetApp via Trident. And again, we can explore this further at some other time, whereby again, that's the foundation. OpenShift with its containers, it's the foundation of the AI world today. And having the ability to move data from on-prem into one of the service providers or the cloud providers, and having that scalability so that I can have access to the data both on-prem, in the cloud, and providing me that burst of resources that's required to run my query or to run my prompt or to do some inference. Okay, again, across all of the cloud providers. And then we're looking at the same kind of thing. However, this is in the block world. Again, this doesn't have the NFS and the SIFS and the S3, but it has the same capability on-prem all the way into the cloud. Very powerful machine, especially for your traditional applications. Again, VMware, Microsoft SQL, MySQL, all of them have integration with our tools that work with ONTAP in unison with ONTAP in order to, number one, keep your data safe and secure, and give you the ability to move data from place to place. Okay, so moving data from on-prem into the cloud, that's really easy, and even these cloud providers will help you. But getting it back out of Amazon or Azure or Google, that's where the secret source of NetApp comes in, where we have, at the drop of a hat, we'll be able to bring back the data for you within minutes. Yeah? Then there's also the NAS portion. And again, scalability is important to us. So we can go from a few 100 terabyte into scaling multi-petabyte machines in a single namespace. So we can have something like 200 billion entries into one, for lack of a better word, SVM or tenant as such. We can scale that data all around the world if we wanted to in an erasure coding type fashion, and offload that also into a cloud provider. So it could be part of a S3 repository, both on-prem and in the cloud. So if you think of that capability, again, I can have data today in South Africa, Johannesburg, and I can have that same data without having to worry about, let's move this data, let's automatically, the machine will move that component. You simply have to tick the lifecycle management that I would like. I would like 3 copies of this data, one in Ireland in Cork and one in Singapore, and the final one in Johannesburg. Okay, so all 3 of us can work on that data independently and provide updates from one end, from Cork in Ireland to Singapore. So everybody, the world has simply shrunk into a very small place. Okay. Again, adding all of that integration into this entire data estate, so the protection from ransomware, the replication, the backup, the snapshotting, all of that integrated. Okay? We also have a validated scenario where we actually would have Cisco, NetApp, Microsoft, Red Hat, or VMware in that entire stack. So this is a fully validated solution. So what happens here is you simply say to us, I'm going to run 1,000 virtual machines or 3,000 virtual machines or 10,000 virtual machines. We will provide you the necessary capability, both from a storage and compute point of view, within one single frame as such. So we call it a data center in a box. So we'll simply roll in the this entire rack, and within a few hours you'll be up and running. Okay? We can start small and scale it as we go along. Um, it's your hybrid cloud in a box as well. Okay. Again,
Hi, Mustafa.
all of it. Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, you have about 5 minutes. Thank you.
I have 5 minutes left.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
We will probably have to do a follow-up session if it's okay with you. Yeah. So
Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah. So the scalability and the ability to move from endpoint to endpoint is backed up by one single point of contact, which is both Cisco and NetApp. Okay. And again, whether we're talking virtual machines or containers, if you say to me, I'm going to have 30,000 containers, we will provide you a solution both on-prem for whatever the purpose is of that device, whether it's going to be a AI project you're starting with and you need a 200 GPUs and 500 terabyte or a petabyte of storage, we will provide it to you in one single box, as I mentioned, a data center in a box. And again, we've spoken about this. There's ONTAP, okay, which is our operating system. It's wherever you want it to be. You want it to be in Amazon, you want it to be in Azure, um, uh, it could be in Google. Okay, so I will have it on-prem, in Amazon, in Azure, in Google, and that's called something that's called NetApp Cloud Volumes on Tap. So if you remember that name, Cloud Volumes on Tap, you will find it in any one of the marketplaces. So if today you wanted to have a NetApp, you can do some testing. Yeah. So you can go to Azure today, go to the marketplace and experiment. There's a free version that you can use, and it will not charge you until you actually put some data onto this. But to see functionality, you're more than welcome to go out and try that. Okay? So this is a component of Amazon as well. This is NetApp in the background, and I'm gonna run a little bit faster. Um, uh, this is this is NetApp in the background, but Amazon brands it as their product, which is rightfully so. It's their data center, their IP. What we do is we provide all of the intelligence. So the replication, the snapshotting, the protection of the data, the ransomware, the anti-ransomware protection, it's all built into it. And if you go to Amazon today, you will find FSX, and the N is the NetApp portion, which is actually NetApp components, but Amazon sells it on as the FSX. Okay? Azure, exactly the same thing. So it's a fully managed file storage service from Azure. Again, all of your snapshotting, your replication, the high availability, or if you want extreme performance, it's all available from NetApp, rebranded as Azure. So you simply have to tick the box and sign up with Azure, and you will get both your file or your block. Okay. And then Google as well. Let's not leave Google out. So anything from 1 gig to 1 petabyte within a matter of seconds. All of the above as well. Their security, your anti-ransomware, the built-in data protection, and all of these again is built into our device. It's not something that you have to go out and bolt it on. It's all built into that. Okay. And this is from NetApp to this is our cloud volumes on tap. So this is a virtual machine that Amazon or Azure would fire up in as a EC2 instance in the environment and provide you exactly the same capability you have on-prem. So whether we're talking about worm technology, whether we're talking about our ransomware protection, whether we're talking about iSCSI protocols, NFS SIFs, or S3, it's all available in all of these cloud providers. I see we haven't added IBM in here. That's available on their cloud platform as well. There's one central unified. Yes. Is my time up?
Yes, yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Okay. So let's. I don't want to take too much of your time. Are there any questions that I can answer before we go any further?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mustafa, for this fantastic session. Yeah, we'll move now to the question and answer segment. We'll be having that for 5 minutes. So if there's anyone that would like to ask any questions, please, uh, now is the time to ask. Anyone that would like to ask? Maybe I can ask one. Mustafa,
Yes, sir.
from NetApp perspective, how do you see data infrastructure evolving to keep up with the needs of AI workload?
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question. You know, it's constantly changing as we speak today. It's constantly changing. So when this AI journey started, and AI is not a new thing, by the way. It's just becoming very mature. So as this journey started, there were normal chat GPT and your different prompts that you would have out there, and running it without a GPU was kind of complex because you'd have to have the resources behind you if you had these multi petabytes of data. Then along came DeepSeek a couple of months ago, and this is from a merely from a GPU point of view. Suddenly, it was almost streamlined the software DeepSeek, and what happened was that it became almost available to the guy on the street, because now we required a mere one or two GPUs. Okay, so it took out all of the complexity from a hardware perspective, and it put it into the software. So software was streamlined, and all of a sudden it just boomed. Okay, one component of that is still the storage capability, where we still need the data. The data is the static point here, because if you look today, the CPUs now are the GPUs now are embedded in that one single socket. It's being offloaded from the CPU into a different component of that CPU. Okay, they've kind of sliced and diced
Right.
it and just added it separately. So the AI world is changing on a daily fashion, and what I'm telling you
Right.
today might not be relevant by next week again. Yeah.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have questions for Mustafa?
Okay. Maybe.
All right, yes, we
Yes.
have Chineye.
Go for it.
Hi, Chineye.
Hi, Mustafa.
Yes.
Thank
Hi.
you so much for this session. I wanted you to highlight to us, as well as our customers who are interested in this topic, as
Yes.
we give it securing your data
Yes.
in this AI era. I know you
Yes.
mentioned the Snap Log, the Snap, but can you make it more relatable to our customers here who may not be so techy in sense
Yeah.
of
Sure.
how these things are called in the storage terms? How
Yes.
practical
Yes.
speaking to a layman, how
Yes.
NetApp have ensured that your data, as it flows out there in the cloud and as it moves from one form to the other, that the security of your big data is guaranteed even in this AI era. Can you
Yeah.
just in few seconds highlight that so that it can be a big takeaway from
Yeah. Yeah.
this issue?
Yeah. Of course. So apologies if I was a bit technical, but so if you look at data security, which is the biggest setback for any organization today, if there's a breach in the data in any form fashion whatsoever. Okay? And we see this daily. We see people being, being encrypted and the ransomware, and people get to us and, oops, can you help us with this? So essentially, what we do, to break it down and take a 60,000 foot view on it, is number one is snapshot. So what a snapshot is, it's simple. Think of it as a point in time copy of my data. So take a normal iPhone, and I take a photograph of something, and I can provide you back that point in time copy from that photograph exactly as it was when I took that photograph. That's exactly what we do there. Okay. Um, in the sense where, protection from both ransomware, it's a built-in tool that we have within our storage array. When we move data from point A to point B, and that's another, especially where people sit on the links and they can actually snoop on the link and decipher what you're sending across the wire and steal your data as such, or inject into your data. So what we do there is we encrypt the data from point A whilst it's in flight. So the data is being transferred from point A to point B. It is encrypted throughout the entire chain. So from point of origin to point of destination where it's actually going to land, it's encrypted. Okay, so no one can actually snoop on the line, or let's say kind of inject themselves into the line and look at your data or inject something into the data. No, we encrypt it from endpoint to endpoint. Then there's also the ability to protect the data from within. So there might be some, and hopefully not in your case, but malicious administrators that's got some sort of grudge against the company or some company, and they want to be a bad actor in that field. We have precautionary measures to cater for that as well. So, for instance, where there's multi-admin verification, so I will need 8 people to verify themselves, and they have to state their username, their password, in order for the first person to do what he intended to do. Let's say he wanted to delete some data. In order for him to do that, 8 people will have to verify that they have all agreed that the data has to be deleted. Okay? That's another point where it's from within. Then there's also multi-factor authentication. There's Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator, where it challenges you for a 6-digit number. Okay? Does that answer your question? Or some of it at least?
Yes, it does. At least it's becoming more relatable now.
Yes. And I would like to expand a bit more on that. With the immutable storage as well, whereby we write once, we can read many times. So you can actually, again, that's what we call immutable storage. You will copy a file, and I'm going to break it down in its very simplest form. I can copy a file to the NetApp device, and I will not be able to change that file in any form, fashion, whatever. Okay, so even if I copy the file, I will have to bring it back in the exact same way. Okay? I cannot modify it at all. Okay, any other questions?
I think that's all the question we can take for now. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Mustafa.
Okay, so
Sincerely appreciate you coming for this session. We'll be moving now to the next speaker,
so,
Mr.
so
Abdurrahman
before
Odunaye.
before I go, can I just again extend the invitation? If anybody needs to get into contact with me, I will put my email address in the chat. If you want to ask me questions or you want to have another session, perfectly happy with that. Simply pop me an email, give me a time, and I'll be there. Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi, Mustafa. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for the
Thank you.
time and the section, right? I will definitely engage you once we have our clients trying to reach you, and we'll also schedule a follow-up call as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. Thank you very much,
Thank
Toby.
you.
So
Thank you.
yes, we have our security specialist here, Mr. Abdurrahman Odunaye.
Good
Hello,
afternoon,
Mr.
everyone.
Abdurrahman.
Yeah,
Good
can you hear
afternoon.
me? Good afternoon, everyone. Um, so
Yes, I can hear you.
I've can I proceed now? And all right, cool. So a little brief introduction of myself. I'm a security specialist for about over 10 years experience in working with security, data security across multiple infrastructures. Today, the fact that I was told to breeze through, so I just have a few minutes to run through. So I would kind of talk through this from a high level, and if anybody needs like a drill down, we can do that if you want to. So allow me to share my screen. So with the theme of what today is, I thought it wise to look at what it means for. Let's look at data security. Since we are looking at AI data infrastructure, at the end of the day, all we're doing is we're working with a lot of data. So let's look at data security from a high level, and we look at some of the data types and what are the strategies you look at, and some of the technologies that applies to each type of to each scenarios we go through. Um, if we look at if when we say data security itself, what do we mean by that? It's just we're just saying it's a process of safeguarding information. So whether the thing about data, the thing about security and data security is it transcends time, it evolves. Whether it is a situation where you're using traditional infrastructures to process your applications, or you're now moving to AI-driven infrastructures, at the end of the day, whatever your GPUs or whatever processes they do, they dump the data, they transfer the data, it passes through a path. So basically, you work with data. So in essence, we are saying that data security in this age of time, in this age and time of where you're working with a lot of data now, you have to incorporate data security as part of what you do on a daily basis or in your roadmap as an organization. You have to look at that. Now, from a data security perspective, it's kind of something that is robust, but again, data is a little bit expensive, so you have to be conscious about it. Now, some of the types of methods and standard practice that we have out there to protect data include encryption, data erasure, data resiliency, and data masking. Now, most of all applications, most of all solutions we find everywhere, even the on tap we just spoke about and the security features they have, most of them, all of those solutions will incorporate these type of these techniques in in the solutions to kind of produce all this to kind of put it in the infrastructure. Now, when you as an enterprise when you from an enterprise environment, you're trying to assess security solutions to protect your data, you look at all these key points when you're looking at them. What are the encryptions? What are the encryptions that it supports? For example, if I look at a solution that supports an AES 256 encryption, for example, and I see one that supports maybe an AES GCM 512, ideally, an AES GCM 512 gives me more better protection, and it does a lot of encryptions on my data. That's harder to crack. So things like that are what we look at. Data erasure as well is a technique where you remove unwanted data, especially where you process, especially in environments where you process a lot of information. Now it becomes times where informations are redundant. You need to clean them up. You need to delete them. Now you need to have strategies to do this. Some strategies that we have in an environment is not to. Another strategy we have in environment is you use solutions that do this over time, and you archive maybe in 8 months, or that data that are maybe 8 months or 12 months old, you purge them out, things like that. You adopt strategy of you don't format your disk when you want to erase, because if everybody knows that if you do a format, the residual information is still there on the disk. You adopt things like you overwrite information on the disk so that you protect your data, things like that from a data erasure perspective. Now, data masking, this is a way of just removing part of your informations and scrambling them so that even if it's intercepted, nobody reads them. It's a form of encryption, but it's lesser in the sense that encryption requires a lot of CPU load and all that, but data masking requires less. So in cases where you are doing big data and you need to kind of encrypt along the way, you kind of adopt data masking instead of the full encryption because of the cycles. Now, data resiliency approaches include creating backups, having block storages, creating multiple of your backups in the different infrastructures, on-prem, on cloud, based most of the things we've gone through on tap. Basically, that's the adoption. So whether all the solutions we see, all the solutions you want to look at from a data security standpoint, they have to kind of all these key points to kind of address it. Now, if we go now, yeah, we've thought of but data itself exists in different states. Now, data can be data. You have your data that can be at rest. Your data can be in motion, and your data can be in use. Now, data at rest means that data that is stored, right? Data that is stored, data that is final state, that is in its data that is in its health state to be safely stored, right? These data are known to be stored. They are cloud, your database informations and all that. They are known to be stored in cloud infrastructures like ONTAP, different type of converged infrastructures as well. And these are your price positions for hackers, for example. These are credit card informations, health informations, bank records, and all that. Now, these informations, this data at rest, this data at rest, the um, because of the criticality, you adopt different security techniques. Now, the security techniques that are adopted in protecting this kind of data because of their criticality includes things like um, data classification, which means you classify your data based on what their criticality. These are bank records, these are employees records. Based on those classifications, you enforce you have the right securities on those file types. Now, data encryption, like we spoke earlier, and that's you encrypt. Even though the data is stored, you encrypt them with all these advanced protocols that even though the security infrastructure is broken down, the what do you call it, the files are not retrieved. Now, data federation is a case of you are storing that you are storing your data in multiple cloud storages and you have one virtual database. Now, in that case, you have a redundancy, you have a resiliency in cases where if one data is compromised, you don't, or not all your data are compromised. If you store all your data in one place and all that data is compromised at once, you're gone. But if you use a federation kind of strategy, even if one infrastructure gets compromised, maybe a 2% of your information or 3% of your information goes down, or 10%. That's basically. Now, tokenization is a way of putting tokens on sensitive data. Now, those tokens provide no values. So when you're sending those critical data, right? You can actually encrypted to tokens too. Let's just put it like that. Converted to tokens. Now, those tokens are only known to the sender and the receiver. Now, if anybody intercepts those kind of data, it's useless information. Now, another thing is password protection. Now, this is a way of you set different kind of password, and you different kind of password complexity. Based on those kind of password complexity, they have different kind of access levels, things like that. Now, there are another type of data like we spoke about is data in transit. Now, this is data that is transmitted from one network to the other. I am sending data from my PC to you via email. That's data in transit. I am copying files. I am copying my backup storage of my files from my on-prem, from my on cloud through maybe a virtual private connect or maybe a VPN. Those are data in transit. Now, basically communications that business applications use to do your day to day. Those are data in transit. Now, this data in transit is critical to business operations. So we this kind of data also you find it on the internet as well, and this data are prone to man in the middle attacks. Now, what we do because of those type of traffic and the use cases of this kind of traffic, it has to be something that is done real time. Now, the technique, one of the some of the security techniques that are used to do data in transit include things like AI-driven application firewalls, next generation firewalls like Cisco firewalls, FortiGate firewalls, Checkpoint firewalls. All these guys have some AI machine learning capabilities to detect applications, the application behaviors and block on the fly, coupled with the signature-based detection, advanced malware detections they have to do that. Also, there's intrusion prevention systems and detection systems. These are a subset of firewalls, but they are specifically designed to detect intrusions. So from a security standpoint, we have like a paradigm that says if someone is specialized to do something, they perform better. So that's one of the things about it. Another things you do is you use VPNs on your network. You use VPNs to communicate between point A to point B. So, for example, if everybody that works on most of the people that are familiar with FSIs, if you work in banks and all that, right? The standard to communicate between you and your partners will be to run a VPN and communicate over the internet and do that. And things like that you do IK version 1, even though that's deprecated now, we don't really advise you do IK version 2 now because of the advanced encryptions they support, things like that. And also when you're doing the applications and when you're building your applications, build your applications to support TLS 1.3 now, because even though TLS 1.2 is available, we have SSL, those are known to be compromised because of the security ciphers they support. Things like two-factor authentications, when you like a Cisco do those, even though you have logged on with your username and password, it gives you an additional. It might be a pop-up on your phone. It might be to put a password. It might be to generate a password on the fly. Things like that. An example of them is Cisco Duo ISA Secure ID, Microsoft Authenticator as well. Another thing is role-based access control. So based on the user's identity group, this is the kind of access you have. That's basically the security techniques we use to kind of enforce data on security. The other one is data in use. So these are data that are processed and you're using at the moment. These are data that you're manipulating in real time. Like they are also prone to man in the middle of attacks. For example, things like you're communicating with the web server to do your bank transactions. Those are data in use. You're communicating with those data. You are communicating with those servers on the fly, and they are exchanging communications. And if those communications compromises, that's the end of the server or the client. At the end of the information is compromised. So things like that is what we call is what we refer to as data in use. Now, because of that, endpoint security solutions like Passkey, McAfee, those are the kind of endpoint security related solutions that can protect users in terms of in data in use in cases, so that in case maybe the user is compromised on the fly, that can be detected on the user endpoint detection system, EDR2, if you're familiar with that. Those are kind of solutions that they can use to protect data in use as well. So I did another thing for data and use, another type of attacks, or another kind of another kind of issues that data and use are susceptible because of the fact that it's user transactions, is user facing attacks like phishing and phishing, right? In those cases, you have to conduct user awareness for your users. You don't submit your passwords. You don't do this. You are my last line of defense and all that. So these are kind of like If we look at it from a general scope, whether we are from where we are now to where we go through, these are still the kind of data we work with, and these are how the techniques we adopt now based on everyone's organization directions with OEMs and whatever, right? We can pick up discussions afterwards on which type of solutions you want to work with or which types of solution fit your own environment. Because at the end of the day, you have multiple OEMs, and each OEM has its own specific where they excel. You see what I'm saying? There are some OEMs that they excel, their security solutions excel in ISP environments, where if you put it in an enterprise environment, it really doesn't work. Whereas you put them in enterprise environment, there are some that you put in an enterprise environment, they excel, and you put them in a data center environment, or you put them in maybe a manufacturing environment, and it doesn't work based on the user type, the network environment, the processes, things like that. Those are kind of things that kind of forms the kind of solution you go through when you're looking at security. So it's not just a one-stop shop to say I want to do Cisco, I want to do Palo Alto, I want to do Fortinet, I want to do McAfee or whatever, right? It's a case of who are my people, what's my process, what's my infrastructure, what's my roadmap. Based on those kind of questions, you feed into solutions. I think that's all of my time. I think I've tried as much as possible to run through. If you guys have any questions, you can. I think that's what I have to kind of present.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Abdulrahman. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll move now to the final Q&A segment. So if you have any questions at all for Mr. Abdulrahman, please you can signify by raising up your hands or type in the comments section or the chat section. Thank you. Anyone at all? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone for your time. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. A big thank you to our speakers, Mr. Mustafa and Mr. Abdurrahman. Uh, this session was very, very uh, insightful and valuable, and we'll definitely be coming back to you for other sessions like this. And if you'd like to learn more about how Manifold and NetApp can support your organization, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. I would call up Mr. Toby to give us a closing remark, and then we can end from there.
All right, thank you very much, Rotimi. But before I go ahead, right, there's an hand up. This is Mr. Adiola Tade, so you can go ahead with your question.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Sorry.
Okay, so that you should have assets now. You can unmute yourself. Oh, your hands are down. So okay. I'll assume that we can proceed if there's no other question. All right, thank you very much for everyone that has been able to join and listen. I will definitely send you a draft of this particular webinar and also drop the slides. And you can pretty reach out to any one of us from the team. So from the team, we'll definitely reach out to you individually if there's any need for, if you have any questions or if there's a need for us to have a survey, and we can definitely come to your environment and have a quick call. And lastly, before I let everyone go, there is a survey, the link that will be dropped in the chat box. We really appreciate if you can fill this form. So this will give us understanding of the environment and see how we can help from the data side and the storage side and also services as the case may be. And thank you very much for joining and have a blessed day.
Thank you very much, Toby. Until next time, everyone, stay innovative. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.